I digress. So Bill Simmons on his podcast with Cousin Sal, who's the all-time Cowboys fan, and Brian Curtis, who not only is a Cowboys fan, used to write for like was a Texas Monthly guy, went to UT, and now is a critic for obviously sports media for The Ringer, and is just amazing, and is from the DFW, right? So nobody knows the Cowboys better than him. And these three guys who have seen advanced copies of this documentary were falling all over themselves. Now, these are three guys who you feel like you know them, folks that watch this show every day. You know me, you know Scotty, right? Because we're pretty authentic. Those guys were falling all over themselves about how good this documentary is. And let's get into why, okay? Some of these stories. Now, imagine this. I lived it, okay? And Scotty, this is actually for somebody like you, and maybe we can talk about this later, but like, you really didn't live this. Like, and that's not a knock. It's just like kind of how it is for a lot of people that are like in their 30s or younger. I remember when Jerry Jones bought the Cowboys. That was crazy as it was. Initially, right away, he fires Tom Landry. Now, Tom Landry at the time was 65, but it seemed like he was like 90, okay? Andy Reid is 67 right now, okay? But Tom Landry was fired at 65, and there were all kinds of like, there had been scuttlebutt that he had dementia issues or not dementias, that's taking it too far, but there were memory issues that he was starting to show his age a little bit, right? And a little mental fatigue. So Landry's gone. Okay. It's like gangbusters the way it happens, you know, the Mexican restaurant, right? Bear the Truth. We've talked about that. I think it was, oh God, Ian Rappaport, Ivan Mizell. Ivan Mizell was writing for the Dallas Morning News. And he was at dinner with his wife at this restaurant where Jerry and Jimmy come in. Ivan Mizell calls the sports desk at the Dallas Morning News. They get a photographer out there, pop. It's on the front page the next morning, right? Like Jimmy Johnson is going to be the next coach and Tom Landry is out. And what do they do in the first year? They trade Herschel Walker, which was basically like the Nico Harrison deal with Luka. Nobody got it. Jimmy Johnson was so ahead of the curve. Mike, whatever, I forget his last name, the GM of the Vikings, didn't really even understand the trade. He didn't understand that the five guys that Jimmy Johnson got, like Jesse Solomon, Darren Nelson, a couple other dudes like that, like the Cowboys got them, but if they cut them, they would receive draft picks as compensation. They cut everybody, right? They get all the draft picks in the world. And then you have players like Michael Irvin, right? The playmaker, the ultimate like king of controversy, right? On and off the field, the arrests, stabbing Everett McKeever in the neck, right? He talks about that. There was a murder for hire plot on Irvin's life. I'd forgotten about this, right? And all the while, Jerry Jones is piecing together this dynasty that dominated the 90s. A couple things that people don't know about Jerry Jones that make him so special, right? And again, this leads to the Jerry Jones mystery, right? I said yesterday, The Wizard of Oz. This documentary is going to cover one. He basically brokered the deal for the NFL on Fox with Rupert Murdoch, okay? He went away from the NFL and was like, we're going to sign a Nike deal exclusive to us. And in an era where, it was all about you had to share revenue and stuff with everybody else in the league, Jerry Jones was like, I'm not sharing this. Like the Cowboys are more important we make more money than everybody else in the league. We're not sharing this. He did it. The league sued. He countersued for a ton of money. And the list goes on, right? And the off the field stuff was okay. So a couple of things about the documentary. I'm getting carried away. Jerry Jones sells the rights to this doc to Skydance and Netflix. And it's obvious that Jerry Jones did not have like there is some dark stuff in there about Jerry Jones. Now, the two words paternity suit, I am told, did not come up, right? So that's one thing that was sort of left out. But they go into Jerry Jones. Obviously, some of his decisions that have been wrong off the field, personally and professionally. They also talk about how much of a gambler he is and was then, and how that gambling attitude, almost Simmons refers to it as irrational confidence, led to him building this dynasty, but also on the back end of it, led to this dynasty falling apart. I mean, Ed Werder and Matt Mosley, I texted Mosley this morning. I'm like, if you and Werder don't do a doomsday podcast on this, it's criminal. Okay. Because they talk about in this documentary, right? They're at the owners' meetings. Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones, their relationship is falling apart. Jerry is getting drunk at the bar, right? And Jerry says to Ed Werder and a couple other guys who are beat writers, hey, stick around. I'm going to fire his ass later on tonight. Like these guys were at the owners' meetings, like a bunch of beat writers, like, holy shit. And it speaks to a couple things. One, we didn't have Twitter and the 24-hour news cycle back then, but we still had Jerry Jones being Jerry Jones. So there was like an unadulterated like drip that we got. He was always on, and guys were always, writing stories about him. I read the book Boys Will Be Boys, the Jeff Pearlman, where he chronicles this whole era of Cowboys football. I listened to it twice. That's 3 times. It's just an amazing book, but it goes into all kinds of stuff. On the tail end of the Cowboys dynasty, Troy Aikman, the poor guy, is getting concussion after concussion after concussion after concussion, like 9 unreported, 5 official. He doesn't even remember one of those NFC championships, like doesn't remember it at all. No memory. Okay. That's the kind of stuff that was flying under the radar, right? That nowadays we would be like, holy mackerel. Football, and it's hard for people, I think, nowadays to imagine, but football really kind of meant more back then because we weren't oversaturated. You know what I mean? Like the Sunday games, Sunday night games were brand new pretty much. There was no real Thursday night unless it was Thanksgiving. Monday night was epic. And the Cowboys were at the center of all of this. And they continued to win and win and win. You're signing guys like Charles Haley. Charles Haley is urinating on the general manager's desk in San Francisco. Cowboys are like, yeah, we'll take him. Come on. The Charles Haley stuff is wild, and it's not PG. We'll put it that way. But this doc is going to shed light on the fact that what Jerry Jones did for the NFL, for the Cowboys, for pro football as we know it, was an absolute home run. Dude hit it in the nickel seats. A lot of the things that we enjoy today as luxuries, right? Whether it is, football stadiums, right? Like Jerry World being an absolute mecca, the television deals, a lot of the money these front offices bring in through marketing deals. Jerry Jones was at the forefront of a lot of that, which is why many times you don't see him get taken to task by Roger Goodell and the powers that be in the NFL. Now, is there right, wrong, or indifferent? That is what it is. But I'm just going to finish this up by, let's just go over the White House. The White House, right? By the way, the White House only had 4 rooms, 4 bedrooms. It was not like overwhelming, okay? But let's just go over the characters in this movie, people who are in this doc who are interviewed. Jimmy Johnson, Jerry Jones, obviously, Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, Dion. You got to get through Skip Bayless, and the list goes on. And our executive producer, Chris Visser, his sister Leslie turns up a bunch of times early on. We got to get either Leslie or Pam Oliver on to talk to us about that era and covering those teams as like a sideline reporter, kind of being in the mix down in the weeds. Another thing I'll mention too is that John Madden and Pat Summerall were so important to that era of football. And they mentioned this on the Simmons pod. Like when John Madden said something, like it reverberated throughout the NFL world and actually throughout your family room and your living room, because my mom cared what John Madden had to say. My dad cared. My grandmother cared. So when John Madden is saying Barry Switzer is a moron, in so many words, I'm paraphrasing, for going for it twice, running the same play on the road at Philly on 4th down, like people are like, whoa, that's crazy. Or another example, when John Madden goes down to the Cowboys locker room after Emmitt Smith plays pretty much the entirety of a divisional, a regular season game to clinch the division at New York in East Rutherford. He's playing with a separated shoulder. John Madden's like, that's the bravest thing I've ever seen on a football field. That is like anointing Emmitt Smith. It was a different time, and I can't wait to relive it. And once again, though, the bottom line, and I haven't done the best job of making this point, but like Jerry Jones has done it again. I almost think as though when this whole thing is going on with Micah Parsons this preseason, right? And I do believe that Jerry Jones is more addicted to being the prolific caricature of a person that he has become. He's more addicted to that than winning football. Cowboys fans have seen that, and that's unfortunate. And it has played out over the past 30 years. I would even say it is like that adrenaline is like heroin to him, right? He cannot deny it. Brian Curtis said, again, the guy, the media critic, the guy who covers media for The Ringer, Jerry Jones's ultimate goal is to be a character in the prestige television show that is the Dallas Cowboys. And he's the main character, right? And the Micah Parsons thing this preseason is just another thing. And, we live in this myopic world where we actually use common sense. Like, he doesn't live there. Jerry Jones doesn't live there. He lives in a place where watch this, And by the way, he knows how good this doc is going to be. He knows how strong it is going to be. It's almost, and hang in there with me, okay? It's almost Michael Jordan and The Last Dance, what it did to re-energize his legacy, right? That's what this is going to do for Jerry Jones. It is going to make a lot of folks reconsider his legacy. It is going to make a lot of folks look at Jerry Jones in a different light. It does not take away all the pain and suffering for Cowboys fans over these past 20 years or 30 years, whatever. But it will open up some eyes, and it will make some people stop and say, oh, so that's why. I get it. Like, this guy is a historic figure who ignited change for one of the most important organizations in the NFL, ultimately igniting change in the league, the most important league on planet Earth. So, you got to give the guy his flowers. I hate saying that. It is. I can't wait. But, by all accounts, I heard this is going to be amazing. A couple of notes to it. It comes out, I think, the 19th, right? So that's next Tuesday. I won't even be back from New York by then, guys. I'll be coming back Tuesday night. But and you can binge it, right? You can watch all, I think it's 7-8 episodes, and you can binge it all. So it's not like The Last Dance where you have to wait. And The Last Dance and people waiting for the weekly episodes was perfect because it fit right into that COVID shutdown, right? It gave us stuff to look forward to. This, you think about it. It comes out like as the preseason is tailing off and the regular season is getting set to ramp up. So look, I would just say I can't wait. I urge people to enjoy it. It also shows to me when we mentioned the Chiefs and the Cowboys, Doc, just how much better and I'm sorry. Maybe I'm a prisoner, Pete. The Cowboys dynasty in the 90s beats the shit out of the Chiefs dynasty right now because of and look, man, you've got a lot of bells and whistles with the Chiefs, but you can't touch that Cowboys group. You just can't. Like the White House, like we're talking about, Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith, even like Eric Williams getting into that tragic accident that maybe cost the Cowboys a Super Bowl. There's so much in there. So I can't wait for it. I also can't wait to hear from Jake Hatch. On the other side of the break, we're talking to Locked On's own Hatcheroo. Jake had me on his sports show, which he produces, KSL Sports in Salt Lake City earlier this week. So we did a little home and home. And there's a lot to talk about. Jake is basically about to reveal to us who the starting quarterback for BYU is going to be. And it's a big deal, dude. It's a big deal. Stay tuned. Jake Hatch coming back on the other side. The Pete Souza Show presented by Slovacix rolls on after this.